have to do with the law. And of course, by the end of the day, we're able to leave you more informed and more educated about your rights, and how that you also have responsibility to ensure that you don't infringe on the rights of others. So today, and of course, by extension this week, we are looking at your rights as a Nigerian, the extent to which those rights are protected, all right, and circumstances that could lead up to those rights being abused or infringed upon, and then going forward, how those rights can either be protected, or where they are already they've already been abused, how you can seek redress. However, there's also the question of what the implications are where an individual's rights are infringed upon or abused. Senior lawyer Femi Falana, SAN, has been speaking up about these issues for decades. As a matter of fact, just a few days ago, he started talking about this issue again, however, from a bit of a different perspective. He was looking at it from the standpoint of the interface that members of the public, for example, have with law enforcement agencies, particularly the police, how that in the middle of all this, the rights of many Nigerians are violated, whether they are aware of it or not. Are these just regular problems that are probably pedestrian or superficial, or are they problems that are associated with some systemic issues we must fundamentally address as quickly as possible? My guest on the program has a wealth of experience as a lawyer, and he's here to help us shed light on this issue, and then going forward, what must be done to address many of the elements in it. Stay with me. It turns out that on this week's edition of the program, my guest is Barrister David Edobo Maduko, apparently a legal practitioner. He's been here to talk about many issues that are both legal, judicial, and so on and so forth within the ambit of the law. But today, we want to pay more attention to human rights. David, as always, it's a pleasure to have you in the program.
Thank you very much, Uyi.
I want us to talk about human rights from a layman's perspective, right? Every day people hear that they have rights. It's almost like a song when you tell people that they have rights. Yet people's rights are violated in broad daylight in this country, across this country. Of course, you know people whose rights have been violated. Even as a lawyer, for example, there's a possibility that your own rights have also been violated one way or another. Perhaps the edge you have is that you are aware of those rights and you understand the dynamics around those rights. But across board, what are the circumstances that lead up to people's rights being violated?
Thank you very much, Willie. Rights, the concept of rights has been laid long time ago. We can look at the principle of where the people came together to submit their collective rights to a sovereign and say, okay, you lead us and we will be the followers, subject to some rules. So the principle and concept of rights have long been established, and that is over time what metamorphosed into what we call a democracy and other forms of government. Now, specifically looking at the fundamental rights now as guaranteed by our ground norm, which is the Constitution, fundamental human rights. I think we should take a helicopter view of what they are all about. You have other forms of rights that may be also loose and may not be enforceable. They are all contained in our Constitution. The fundamental human rights, of course, we know the fundamental human rights clause, chapter 30, section 30 to 40 of our Constitution.
Right.
And of course, we also know of the other rights that are basic, that have been guaranteed by the United Nations Convention and other international bodies. Those are the rights that we refer to in our Constitution as the fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy. They are there. Right to education, healthcare, and all those. They are there. They are enshrined in our Constitution. But are they justiciable is another question. The way they are not for now. And that's part of our clamor over the years to make them justiciable so that we can we can hold our government accountable.
So when you say they are not justiciable in this context, perhaps the point you're making is that nobody can sue on the basis of those rights as they are today.
As they are today. And a cross-section of rights societies and other groups have been clamoring over the years that, look, make these sets of laws, these sets of rights justiciable. And when you make them justiciable, you can hold any government accountable to them. But then let's come back, let's not go too far, let's come back to our fundamental human rights, right to life, right to freedom of religion, thought, expression, and all that. It's also guaranteed in our constitution. And it's something we see abused every day, the dignity of the human person. These are rights that are enshrined in our constitution. They are abused seriously every day. And apart from going to court to enforce them, we've not seen a kind of move that has deterred both the enforcing agencies and some other groups who have been abusing these rights vis-a-vis the citizens of the country. My senior learned colleague, Femi Falana SAN, like you rightly said, has enumerated on some of these rights, especially as related to the administration of criminal justice law. He has been able to let us know of the rights we have, that even if you are arrested as a suspect in the police station and you have a right to refuse to say anything and demand for your counsel, you should be informed of your right timeously. That you are
by the law enforcement agencies. By the law
enforcement agencies. You should be informed of your rights. And they have even gone as far as even saying that, look, if you intend to make an urgent call, an important call, the police should, afford you of a telephone to do that.
At the expense of government.
At the expense of government. You are going to make your statement. Your counsel, you have the right for your counsel to be present while you're making your statement. So all these things are innovations brought in by the Administration of Criminal Justice Law 2015, as was promulgated by our National Assembly. And the law has come into force. Hitherto before then, we had for the criminal justice jurisdiction, we had we have two sets of laws. The ones that govern the southern part of the country, and the ones that the criminal code for the north.
Penal code.
Yes, and the criminal procedure for the south. But now the ACJL came in, and of course, we know, as with most laws, federal enactment.
You have to domesticate.
You have to domesticate.
Right.
Luckily for us, as a state, Edo State, the very next year, our state domesticated it and adopted it, almost in total. Kudos to our CJ, who has been also able to, guide on the practicability of the application of these laws. I'm aware that the CJ of Edo State has issued practice directions, vis-a-vis as to the application of the Edo State criminal justice law. So in that regard, it's kudos to a new phase of administering criminal justice. There are a lot of innovations that can be highlighted. The issue of, I think Section 33 talks about police making a report to the nearest magistrate on whatever arrests are made, I think on a monthly basis. The magistrate in the jurisdiction ought to be informed that, look, these are the arrests that have been made. And Section 34 also talks about the chief magistrate, on the last working day of every month, making a visit to all the stations and taking stock, of those that are in detention, the state of whatever arrests and bails have been made. And you see, if this is strictly complied with, it will go a long way.
If.
Yes, if. it is complied with,
Right.
it will go a long way in, easing the administration of criminal justice, procedure in the country. We'll stop hearing of things like prison congestion, inmate break, and all that. At least you should have a reasonable ratio of persons in custody and persons that are held in detention for varying reasons. There should be at least a capacity of the facility to hold those that are in.
When I listen to many of the brilliant things that senior lawyer Falana said, I mean, brilliant and ideal.
Yeah.
Brilliant and ideal. But sad thing is, there are people who say, look, the bulk of the things he said only hangs in the air as far as Nigeria is concerned, because they are saying this is a country where, for the most part, the rule of law is not entrenched, particularly on the level of leadership. And they are saying, I mean, as I say in African parlance, life starts getting better from the head. So if we're missing it for the most part with the rule of law, with the ground of the Constitution, for example, and then is it ideal, is it realistic for us to be expecting that those at the last rung of the ladder, for example, so to speak, would even respect the rights of others? I mean, law enforcement agencies, for example, the police, for instance.
Yes. Well, what you have said is true, and it's very unfortunate. I recall on the program here, I think similar program on this same station, where I lamented at the comment made by our Commander-in-Chief and Head of State some years ago during the opening of the NBA conference, when he said that
that was in 2018.
Yeah, 2018, that national security is over and above the rule of law. You see, that such statement should not be coming from the head of state of any country. So that was regrettable. And like I said, the actions that followed thereafter, the invasion of judges' houses, all in a state to intimidate the judiciary and cow them into some form of, despicable kind of image you want to give to the judiciary and make them, bend to your will. Those were totally unnecessary. The learned senior advocate, Femi Falana, has begun, that is a campaign, by enlightening the general public that, look, these are your rights. Unfortunately, if our leaders are not keeping to it, the duty is on us to try and keep to it. Femi Falana has done well. We all, in our own individual ways, should try our best to keep to it, so that collectively we should make these things work. If I'm a practicing lawyer, if I go to the police station and I go to secure the bail of a client and I'm being asked to pay money and I refuse, and I choose to go through the crucible, through the whole hoax, and say, no, I am not going to pay this, because bail is meant to be free and bail should be free, and I go through the whole thing and I file my papers and I go to court and I achieve the bail, I would have contributed in my own small way. But you see, it is this impatience, this we want to get things done fast, let's succumb to this whole principle of corruption. Yes, I can give it and get things done fast. That mentality we have, that's how we also contribute to these laws just being in the book and not being fully practicable. So we owe a duty to the country, each and every one of us, in our own individual way, so that collectively we can make laws work. Laws don't work because we also contribute to the fact that laws do not work. I just read to you the provision from the ACJL that mandates magistrates that on the last working day of every month, you go around the detention centers in your jurisdiction, be it police force, be it EFCC, be it ICPC. You go around.
Beyond the regular correctional facilities.
Exactly. You go around and you make sure that, this stock has been taken, that people are not unjustly being detained. Now the question is this: how many of them have complied with this? We need some serious home cleaning ourselves. We need to clean our house.
There's something that seems a bit protracted. I mean, there's a whole chain. At one point, a suspect is arrested,
Yes.
and then taken to the police station, typically, and then interrogated, and then there are controversies most times around the interrogation as to how the suspect statement is beaten out,
Yes.
so to speak. All right. We've heard about suspects being tortured. We've heard about suspects being coerced, put under pressure, being blackmailed just to be able to, as it were, elicit statements from them. We've seen cases where a suspect gives a particular statement at the police station. He gets to court and he says the statement was obtained under duress.
Yeah.
So it becomes your word against my word, and
yeah.
it just gets protracted all the way down the line.
Yes.
Isn't this a long walk to freedom, in the words of some human rights activists?
Well, yes, and that is why you have the principle of the trial within trial in criminal proceedings, where the voluntariness of the statement of an accused person is called to question.
Okay.
Then the court will break into what we call the trial within trial. Now, unfortunately, somehow the issue of trial within trial wants to be kind of glossed over by the administration of criminal justice law.
Wow.
Yes, that came in. It's an issue. In fact, let me speak as per Edo State. You know, there's a little conflict here. The administration of criminal justice law was domesticated in Edo State, and we now have the Edo State administration of criminal justice law.
Okay.
Which is a state law. It's a state enactment. Now, the issue of breaking in criminal proceedings into trial within trial is backed by the Evidence Act.
Okay. A separate instrument of
yes, yes, and the Evidence Act is within the purview of the exclusive legislative list.
Okay.
Which is a federal.
So one is over here, the other one is
a federal enactment. And so you see, you can't use a state enactment, can't override a federal enactment.
Right.
The Evidence Act backs the process of trial within trial, and that once the voluntariness of a statement is called to question, the court must break into a trial within trial to find out, the voluntariness or otherwise of that statement.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it should be a principle of fundamental rights. Because if I say, no, I didn't make this, I was beaten to write this, then the court should actually go and find out whether, yes, I was beaten. Yes, I know there's the issue of painstaking taking of evidence,
rigorous
and all that,
process,
rigorous process,
trying to do due diligence.
Yes, but that is the whole price you need to pay for justice. Because at the end of the day, the whole proceedings, the whole process is geared towards achieving justice.
We're going to take a quick break at this point. When we return, we'll be talking more about how much more price we must or should pay to ensure that we continue to push the conversation about getting justice every time the need for it arises. We're back shortly. Stay with me. Before we wrap it up altogether, I wanted to talk about, if you like, interagency collaboration, right? Okay. You talk about law enforcement, for example. It's a whole value chain, as it were, right? You have the lawyers, you have the law enforcement agents, particularly the police, because the police obviously are the ones who interface with members of the public much more than any other outfits as far as the security agencies themselves are concerned. Why do we see, for want of better words, what you might call supremacy battle between the police and lawyers? A lawyer goes to court and says, I want to take my client on bail, and then you have this back and forth as to, he asked me to bring a certain amount, I'm a lawyer, I understand the law, I know what the law says, I'm not going to pay, and then you hear that the IPO has traveled, his number is not going through, his number is going through, he's not taking calls. Why do we have this kind of situation?
Well, the truth is, we are supposed to be partners in the process of administration of justice, both criminal and civil. Unfortunately, that friction exists seriously between the police and legal practitioners in the country. I can't seem to really put my hand on why it is so, but it is so. It is so. The truth is this: the lawyers have a clear-cut, designated role when it comes to issues of, going to the police station, especially with issues of bail and all that. And the police too seem to like, okay, we have been keeping this guy, that feeling, we have been keeping this guy, we know the way we deal with him. Now you, lawyer, you have come to take him away. That mentality has always been there. We have tried as an organization, as the NBA, from time to time. We do organize seminars to, make this seeming friction between the police and the lawyers, to ease it and explain that, look, no, we cannot do without each other. We are partners in this business of justice dispensation, and without the lawyers, the police can go far. And also, without the police, the lawyers are a bit handicapped in some aspects. So it must be a synergy of good romance between the two. In most of our bar conferences, we have a section where we also devote to the police, where issues like this are talked about, they are trashed out. As a branch in Benin, I'm aware that we also have the NBA Police Bar Relations Committee.
Just to add to what you're saying, incidentally, it turns out that a good number of policemen are also lawyers.
Many of them, especially the OC legals.
Right.
The OC legals are lawyers, and over time we've also used to go through them, to kind of kill this mentality that police cannot work with lawyers. We are meant to work together.
Right.
There's meant to be the wheel of progress in justice delivery. It's supposed to be oiled by the relationship between the police and the lawyers. But unfortunately, it's not so by and large. But slowly, we are trying to work on it. And slowly, most of this thing we complain about does not exist with the senior officers.
Okay.
It's really, it's from a certain rank down that we experience this. Most of the senior officers are, they are decent, they are respectable, they are responsible, and they are very friendly. We don't experience this with them.
Okay.
Yes.
We can only hope that as we make progress in this push for justice, not only for justice to be done, but to be seen that it has been done. All we can say is everybody has got to put their hands on deck and be sure that we're all on the same page as far as the issue of human rights, protecting human rights in this country, and especially where, again, those rights have been violated, that we're able to seek redress. And people have to be able to build confidence in the system, because Barrister Maduko here just talked about how that most times we are in a hurry to want to get things done at the speed of light. Most of us are not really disposed to going the full length to ensure that we get justice done. So people want to cut corners, want to sidestep, as it were, the system, are ready to pay money and so on and so forth. But then again, if we build more confidence in the way the system works, the justice system works, for example, I'm very sure people will have better reasons to trust the system and ensure that it will deliver justice ultimately. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Always,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I've been talking with an experienced lawyer, Barrister David Edobo Maduko, who has been sharing insights with us as to the dynamics of human rights protection, issues of violation, and then how to seek redress. Again, with particular reference to the peculiarity of our justice system in this country. I'm Uyag Mofwegbe. That's our program for you this week. Law and You returns next week, Monday. Enjoy the rest of your evening.